All right, this is Grandmaster Horton. In this video, I'm going to address belts. These are various types of belts. I'm explaining what each one means. These are different ones I've worn over the years. This is your standard student belt. And the way you can tell a student belt is the thickness and the color. Here, notice there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stitches. The 9 stitches is the width of a student belt. This is a 3rd degree black belt, indicated by the 3 bars. Each bar is supposed to be approximately 1/4 of an inch in thickness. And here we have how many stitches? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 stitches. Now, normally you would not have a belt this thick for any rank below master, but I was the first 3rd degree black belt to ever be promoted under my instructor. And as the first 3rd degree black belt, I received a master's belt. So the number of stitches in the belt indicates a person's rank. In Okinawa, they don't use the stripe system. The black belt with the red stripes, that's an American thing. When you look at the Japanese systems, they either the Okinawan systems refer to the thickness of the belt, and the Japanese jiu-jitsu and judo systems actually utilize the red and white belt system beyond 3rd degree, but we'll get to that in a moment. So here's my 5th degree black belt. In the American system, 5th degree black belt is indicated by a solid block unifying all of the stripes. So you have 1, 2, 3 stripes, 4 stripes. When you hit 5 stripes, you get one solid block right here. And again, you can see the number of stitches: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You also notice the wear and tear on the belt. Notice the actual edges are even frayed. The reason is, and you can see the difference in color between this belt and this belt. Now, the reason is I never got to wear this. This was an ornamental belt. My 3rd degree black belt I actually wore was a plain black belt with red tape on the bottom. Many of you will know what I'm talking about. This was an ornamental belt for a trip to Japan. This one was specifically designed for me because I was the first person to ever achieve 5th degree black belt under my instructor. So he gave it to me the way it should be presented, which is my name, my rank is a solid block, initials of my school, and the correct number of stitches, which can be anywhere from 10 stitches to 15 stitches for a master's belt. And in Okinawa, the thickness of the belt would tell you again the rank. Now, for a rank of 6th degree through 8th degree black belt, if you are taking jiu-jitsu or judo, you would be wearing a belt like this at those ranks. Once you go past 3rd dan in the jiu-jitsu and judo systems, you then wear red and white belts. So 4th and 5th have red and white belts, but the belt is divided in half by red and white. Half is red, the other half is white, going all the way around the belt. When you get 6th through 8th, they become blocks. And these blocks either end in red or they end in white. And the length of the block will vary. And that tells you the rank of the person. The shorter the block, the higher the rank. This is my final belt. Notice, no stripes. The reason there are no stripes is because I chose to not use stripes. But again, my name, the school's acronym, as well as the Chinese characters for Dai Shifu, which basically means big elder monk, or what we consider Grand Master. So these are the different ranks that I have been through over the years. Then you have to ask yourself, well, where did the belt system come from? Why do we use all these different types of belt? Well, our belt system came from Gaijuro Kano. Gaijuro Kano, the founder of Kudokan Judo, came up with a system for measuring the accomplishments of an individual in a non-militaristic environment. If you're in the military, if you're in an academic environment, then you have methods of measuring your accomplishments. You get bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, you get a PhD, you get ranks on your sleeve in the military. You get titles that correspond to those ranks. So the belt system was created in order to correspond to these things. So Gaijuro Kano comes up with the idea belt system. He used red and white because he used the Kudokan method of promotion, which is your belt is commensurate with what is the highest ranking person you can defeat in a fight. See, the way judo became accepted by the Japanese was what? It was basically the same way the UFC came around. Kano said, take out the kicks, the punches, and the weapons of jiu-jitsu, and you can still teach effective fighting while minimizing risk to your opponent. Japanese don't like change, like most of us don't. And so they said they gave him an opportunity to prove himself at a tournament. 10 of his best students versus 10 of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners representing Japan. Well, he and his students won 9 of the 10 matches, and that is how judo became accepted as a sport in Japan. Now, that was important because during the time period after World War I and after World War II, again, what happened? Japan had their military disbanded. So 3 times in history, when the Westerners came over and began to trade with Japan, the samurai fell by the wayside. Suddenly, feudal Japan is over. They're becoming more civilized. They're no longer warring states within the country. And so samurai had to cut off their top knot. They had to lose their positions in society where they were they were the noble class. They were the high up. They were making lots of money. Suddenly, their carrying swords means nothing because here comes all these Englishmen with muskets and guns. So now you have to find another way of making a living, basically, because you are no longer the shogun or the daimyo to the emperor or to a feudal lord. There are no more feudal lords. Now everything is settled with capitalism and money. Then at the end of World War I, you have soldiers who suddenly their skills were not as valuable because, again, we had an occupation by the Allied forces, and the same thing happens at the end of World War II. So these were key pivotal points. So the 20s represented that period between the World War I and World War II, where we establish a belt ranking system where we can recognize people who have martial skill, but they're not allowed to practice martial arts anymore because of the agreement, because the military is being disbanded. So the only way they preserved karate in Japan was they were able to turn it into either a sport or a class at universities. And so Funakoshi, April 1924, has a karate club that he is running in Tokyo. And at that karate club, he promotes the first black belt. And that first black belt established everybody else. So then you have to ask, well, where did Funakoshi get his black belt? Answer, he didn't. Funakoshi never tested for a black belt. Funakoshi learned Shoden-ryu and Shorin-ryu. He learned Shorin-ryu from Anako Itosu. Itosu was not a black belt. Neither was Yamaguchi, Miyagi, none of these guys. These guys, what they did was when they trained someone, they taught them for a number of years, and I'll give the perfect example of Goju-ryu. They have a well-documented system. Chojin Miyagi was a well-respected master. Yamaguchi, at 20 years old, opened his own martial arts school and began to teach Goju Kai. At 20 years old, he was not a 55-year-old grandmaster 10th degree black belt like all these false claims nowadays. He was 20 years old, and he was teaching what he knew of karate. At 22 years old, 2 years later, he met Chojin Miyagi. Chojin Miyagi and he trained together from that time for the next 5.5 years. At the end of those 5.5 years, Chojin Miyagi issued what is called the Mokuroku. The Mokuroku was a certification license that allowed him to teach the Goju system and certified that Miyagi had taught him all that he knew of Goju-ryu. That is with 5.5 years. So nowadays, we have people who claim you can't become a master because according to the Japanese Karate Association, you have to spend 1 year at first degree, 2 years at second degree, 3 years at third degree, 4 years at fourth degree, 6 years at fifth degree, 6 years at sixth degree, 7 years at seventh degree. Anybody notice a pattern? Just random ass numbers being called out for no reason. When the founders of the system and this methodology did not have any of those requirements. They simply got together and said, hey, we don't have a military, so we're not going to be paid for fighting anymore. But what we can do is establish this as a sport, a PE activity. And that's what they did. Yamaguchi came up with the current point fighting system that we use in American point tournaments to this day. That came from Yamaguchi. And he also established the karate club so that it became a part of the physical education curriculum of universities and eventually high schools. And because you're teaching a curriculum, you have to be able to say, this is what is necessary to go from this grade level to this grade level, which is why the Dan system is considered a grade system. Now let's look at the higher ranks. When you say master, you speak to usually 5th degree or 6th degree black belt. And when you go beyond that, they say, well, 9th and 10th and ranks like that are like what? PhDs, because it's academic parallel. So when you look at it in that respect, you say, well, how do you get a PhD? Independent study research. And then you present a dissertation to a panel of already doctors. Correct? That's correct. Okay, so then how do you become a 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th degree black belt? You can't take a test. 5th degree black belt is the highest rank you can test for because this is master rank in a 10th Dan system. So when you achieve mastery of the system, how can someone then test you on a component of a system you've already proven mastery of? So then what is a senior master and a grand master? Simple. It is an administrative position. It's just like saying, okay, I'm a teacher and I've gone as far as I can in teaching. So what's the next thing to do? You become a principal, you become a dean, you become an assistant principal. Same concept. So let's say you run a martial arts school. Well, the highest rank you can achieve running a school is master. Then you say, but I open a second location. Well, I can't be in two places at once. So what do? I need to be able to promote a master that can run the second school. So I need to be able to be promoted to 7th degree so that I can promote a 5th degree to run this school while another 5th degree runs this school. Now, why is it important that you're a 5th degree? Because in a 10th system that goes to 10 degrees, the first 2 ranks all the way up to this belt, first 2 ranks, those are student ranks. You are not a master at black belt. You're not a sensei at 2nd degree black belt in a system that goes at 10 degrees. This is 3rd degree. That is teaching stripe. Why? Because in a system, you're allowed to teach 2 levels, promote 2 levels below where you currently are. So if you're a 3rd degree, take away 2 stripes, you can promote all the way up to black belt, which means you can promote all colors of the system, which is what makes you a teacher. A master can promote teachers. That's important for spreading the system, which is important, right? And then we come over here. A grandmaster is one who is head of the system. They're the guardian of all the knowledge and all the history of the system, which is why I know so much about so many different systems. So you have to know and be knowledgeable for you to say, I am a grandmaster. I have that doctorate degree knowledge. The average person I've seen doesn't deserve any of these ranks. You have a conversation with them, all they can do is regurgitate what somebody told them 20 years ago, or what is the common cliches and misunderstandings. Funakoshi never went beyond 5th degree black belt. Neither did Anako Itosu, neither did Yamaguchi, neither did Miyagi, none of these guys. Why? 5th degree was the agreed upon highest rank because that was mastery. And then later on, when the system spread and got big, you needed more belts because a 5th degree can run a school. 6th degree can run 2 schools, 3 schools, but there's a limit, regional. So if you're in Okinawa and you're the Okinawan senior master, fit 6th, 7th degree, that makes sense. He's 7th degree so that he can promote masters and continue to promote schools. But this guy can't do anything in Australia or Canada. So guess what? We need an 8th Dan. So that we have a 7th Dan in Canada. We got a 7th Dan in Okinawa. We got a 7th Dan in Japan. They're in charge of creating the masters and approving the masters in that region. But when the region goes beyond their reach, you need someone they can call to settle those disputes or to promote to the next level so people can continue expanding the system. So your belt rank is supposed to correspond to the needs of the system. If you don't need a 10th Dan because you don't have 100 schools and 100 locations, why are you running around with a 10th Dan? Why are you running around wearing a 10th degree black belt and you don't teach martial arts? You don't have any schools in your system. You're just a guy that wears a 10th degree black belt and goes to tournaments. That makes no sense at all. Your rank is commensurate with your ability to spread the system. That's where your rank comes from. So when people are trying to understand belts and belt systems, understand in Taekwondo, a solid red belt is a equivalent of a brown belt. But in the Japanese systems, a solid red belt is someone who has achieved 9th or 10th degree grand mastership in a Japanese system. And in that system, traditionally, where that comes from is they said, look, in Okinawa, you're a student, 9 stitches. You're a master because you got 11 to 15 stitches. Now, if you have achieved 12 to 15 of those stitches and you're wearing a black belt, forget the bar, look more toward this one. I have 15, 12 stitches or 15 stitches. The grand master of the system passes away. Well, now anybody who has 12 to 15 stitches can apply for that position, so to speak. So I say, okay, I'm the grand master of Matsumoto Shonryu now. The instructor died. Okay. There's going to be about 6 or 7 other guys that's got that same fat, wide belt. And they're going to say, we should be the grandmaster. We train longer. We know more. Well, how is that dispute settled? Because you fight to the death. just like samurai did. That's the Bushido method. And when you fight to the death, the winner wears a solid red belt, saying that they shed blood to achieve that belt. They accept all challenges for death matches to say, I am the head of this system and I can prove the prowess of my system. I don't know a whole lot of people run around red belts that'll do that nowadays, but that is the actual history.